he gives us the principle in verse 14. What use is it, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but has no works? Can that faith save him? The Greek construction of this sentence is expecting a negative answer. He's expecting his audience, and it's set up so that they would say, no, that faith cannot save him. No, that faith doesn't work. And notice, the reason I use the New American Standard is because it really portrays better what James is saying. It conveys better the meaning of the Greek language. Can that faith save him? He's looking back to chapter 1. He's looking back to what was previously said. He's saying, can that type of faith really save anybody? The answer is no. Theologians have debated. It split the church, this book, in some segments. Martin Luther, early in his life, felt it was a right strawy epistle, meaning that this wasn't an epistle with substance. But later on, he better understood James, and his perspective changed on the book of James. But what is Paul saying when he talks about justified by faith and faith alone? And James saying when he says that type of faith, a faith that has no works, is really not a faith that will save you. Well, Paul was speaking to a different audience than James. Paul was speaking to Gentiles who were converted to Christianity. And they were Judaizers, those religious Jews who wanted to keep the Old Testament law and wanted New Testament believers to look like an Old Testament believer following the Old Testament law. And so Paul was saying to them, wait a minute, you're saved by faith and faith alone. You don't have to follow Old Testament ritual, Old Testament law. You don't have to do that. That is not a means of your salvation. So he was speaking to an audience who was looking at the way of salvation. They were saying, how can we be saved? How can we know God? And he was saying, you can't do it through the works of the law because no one is justified. It's faith and faith alone. Now, James is speaking to a church who has their creed down and they have their doctrines right. And he's saying to the church, he said, listen, don't tell me that you have faith and you don't live like it. Don't talk about the talk, walk the walk. So he's telling them that faith exhibits itself in a certain way of living. He's a master jeweler that's taken faith